Hey, welcome back to session number 8. I'm so glad you're still here and sticking with this. My guess is this channel is created and this program is offered, and I look at the numbers. Probably number one's going to have the most people, and then it's just going to taper off as the video goes down. So I'm glad you made it to right around the halfway point. And again, I know these are the weeks. A lot of times people struggle more than others because of all these habits and things that they're trying to break. So hopefully you had a successful time with your anger and changing the culture, and love to hear those stories. So again, email me any information on that, how you tried to change your culture at work, at home, how that went, and just love to hear any feedback and stories on that. So session 8 is usually one that pretty much everybody with anxiety and depression struggle with, even if you don't have anxiety or depression. The what if thinking tends to be just something that people struggle with, and having those negative thoughts, and just not being able to control them in a positive, productive, or healthy way. So we're going to get right into the skill, and this is going to be a huge part of your homework, like putting this new technique into place. So I'll share the video with you, and then talk about just a couple more things that I've come up with since I originally created this video, that may be able to help you out. So talk to you in a minute.
Hi everyone, hope you did a great job with your anger and getting that under control and doing something to change the culture of your home. This week we're going to be talking about worry, and we did a lot of background information, and hopefully you're starting to see improvement in these skills starting to help you out. But a lot of times at this point of here, I still worry all the time, and I don't know why. I don't know what to do about this. So this is going to be a huge skill that you just can't give up on, because it's hard. And what I want you to do is, it's called the worry jar or worry container. So I want you to imagine in your mind a container. All right, you can close your eyes while you're doing this if you like. Keep your eyes open, doesn't matter. But just imagine a container. And the only rule for this container is it has a lock on it. All right, so whatever container you imagine have a lock. Some people it's a treasure chest, some people it's a jar. Doesn't matter what your container looks like. Okay, now you can open your eyes. And what I want you to do is, when you find yourself starting to worry, I want you to put that worry inside your worry container, your worry jar, your worry chest, whatever it may be. So maybe you have a doctor's appointment coming up, and you're worried about that. And so every time you catch yourself worrying, put it in your worry jar. And what I want you to do is schedule a time. Could be middle of the day. I wouldn't do it right before bed, but sometime in the evening, where you're going to give yourself 15 minutes. If you're a huge worrier and you want to do 30, go for it. It's up to you. But whatever time you schedule, you're going to pull that container out, open it up, and whatever you stuck in there, whatever your list of worries are, worry your heart out. So spend that 15 minutes, worry like crazy. Spend the 30 minutes, worry like crazy. Now, as we go on in the program, we're going to make this time a little bit more productive. But at this point, worry your heart out. A lot of times people will say, well, what if I forget what I'm supposed to worry about? First of all, I don't think that's really all that bad of a thing. But if you need to make a list, if you need to write it down, if you want to make sure that you worry about that thing, go for it. Text yourself, write it down, whatever it may be. But here's the thing, people will come in the following week and they'll all say, oh, I still worried this week. And it's like, kind of evaluate, like, okay, the week before this, how many hours, minutes, whatever it may be a day did you worry? A lot of them would say, well, I worried all day long, like 8 hours. Well, once you started doing the worry jar, how many did you worry? Oh, probably 4 to 6. So you cut down 2 to 4 hours of worry time, which is a huge success. And again, worrying is a bad habit. Habits are not always that easy to break. So sometimes it's just hard to catch yourself right away and realize, like, I'm not going to worry right now. 8:15 tonight, my worry time. I'm going to save it till then, and then I'll worry about it. And so every time you catch that worry, right away, put it into your container, and you're going to pull it out a little bit later. And just stick with it. Don't give up on it. Again, it's might be a struggle at first, but just give it to your worry time and worry your heart out. And again, as we go on, we'll make that worry time a little more productive. But for now, just all you're really doing is sticking those worries, locking them in your jar, and don't get out that key until your worry time. All right? Have a great time with it.
So this idea of the worry jar, which we'll talk more about in our lesson today, but it's huge. And two things that seem to make it unsuccessful for people. First of all, is people just being discouraged because they don't feel like they put their worries into the container like quite fast enough. So that that's one thing that a lot of people will come back and say, like, this was a complete failure on my part. And then the second thing, people tend to do is they don't schedule their worry time. Well, they schedule it, but they don't actually do it. So they'll say, every night at 7:15 till 7:30 is going to be my worry time. And they'll come back and say, I just got really busy, and next thing I knew it was 8:30 and I never did it. And you don't want to schedule it right before bed. You don't want to schedule it first thing in the morning. So sometimes people just tend to forget about it. And the problem with that is, like, your brain knows that. Your brain is not a stupid organ that doesn't like pick up on these things. So it's almost like if you walk to the refrigerator and notice you needed some more orange juice for tomorrow, and it's in the morning, you just finished the orange juice. If you went to the grocery store every night at 7:00, you would just say, I'll just put orange juice on my list. I'll get it when I go to the grocery store tonight. But if you always say every single day, I'm going to go to the grocery store at 7:00, but you never actually do it, the moment that you look at that orange juice and say, hey, I need more orange juice, and you try and tell your brain, I'll go when I go to the grocery store at 7:00 tonight, your brain is going to respond by saying, who are you trying to fool? like, who are you kidding? You're not actually going to go to the grocery store. You're not actually going to go at 7:00 like you always plan. So we need to go get that orange juice now. And it's going to convince you that if we want this orange juice, we need to go in the car and get there now. And it's the same thing with your worry. So if you're constantly skipping this time you have set aside to worry, your brain's going to know, like, hey, I have this presentation at work coming up, like, and you start to worry and you try to put it in the worry jar and say, I'll worry about this at my worry time. And your brain's going to say, you don't even use that worry time. Like, we need to worry about this now because it's not going to happen later. So the big thing is make sure you actually schedule that worry time. And I can tell you, like, right now you're just worrying your heart out. But next session, we're going to talk more about how to make that more productive and more effective. Okay, so let me just look something up really quick. But if you remember, all the way back into session 2, I think, we talked about the woman standing in the kitchen and noticed it was 5:45. Husband was supposed to be home at 5:30. And, her thought patterns took her down to the place where, he's in the ditch. He's not going to survive. Her and the kids are going to be homeless, and that kicking off the panic attack. And so, a lot of you hopefully have overcome those panic attacks, and you're floating with those feelings, and you've learned when that thought pattern comes that you can put a stop to the panic. But a lot of you still struggle with, how do I put a stop to those thoughts and the what if thinking, and what if he is in a ditch, and what if he doesn't survive, and the feelings that can come along with that. So the what if thinking, we want to look at, like, how to actually deal with those thoughts and those worries. So it also carries on to the next session a little bit as well. But let's look at some of the main points. So number one, what if thinking, kind of the psychological term is anticipatory anxiety, is a very negative habit. So one of the things I'm sure you've picked up over the last 7.5 weeks now is that there's a lot of bad habits that go along with anxiety and depression, and this what if thinking is definitely one as well. So that habit, all the wonderful benefits there, it creates fear, it creates anxiety, and creates sadness. So not much of a benefit to any of those. All right, so you can see in the blank there, 3 things that I worried about today and how long I worried. So if you're watching this first thing in the morning, just pick yesterday. But write down some things that you worried about over the last 24 hours and then put a time. If you need to change it from minutes to hours, just scratch out the minutes and write in hours. But I want you to just kind of get a gauge on where your worry time is now. So if you need to pause the video for a minute or two, go ahead. All right, so hopefully you're looking at, okay, here's a list of some things I've been worried about, how long I've been wasting my day worrying about those things. So let's look at what to do with some of these worries. Again, right now, down at skill number 4, we're going to be using the worry jar. But some other things that go along with that is the first antidote to what if thinking is self-talk. So, this is why we don't do this session in session 1, because you haven't learned about the better but believable thoughts. You haven't learned about looking at all the evidence and investigating those sort of things. And a lot of things that have built up to this, where now when you have those worries that you can change that and have more positive self-talk and a better but believable thoughts. All right, so 2 things you can do with this. So first, you can choose an answer from above and change it into a positive what if. So let's say you're worried about a medical test and you worried about that for 5 hours yesterday. And so I'm sure your what if is very negative. So what if I go in there and there's something wrong? What if something shows up? What if I'm going to have to deal with all this medical stuff coming up in the near future? So you change it to a positive what if. So what if I go and the test shows there's nothing serious wrong? What if I go and everything that I could possibly imagine goes right, and there's no pain in the test, it goes quickly, I get in, I don't have to wait in the waiting room. So instead of what if is kind of picturing life the way you don't want it to be. So one thing you can do is start to picture life the way that you want it to be. Again, as you're working on these negative thoughts and everything building up to this, it also needs to be believable. At least to some degree, to have any kind of psychological thing. All right, so if you're finding that I just can't believe that this test is going to be okay, or I just can't believe that I'm not going to lose my job, or whatever these worries are, you can choose one of those worries from above and turn it into something funny or even more negative, just to give your brain kind of that relaxation of okay, maybe this isn't as bad as I had pictured. All right, so I remember working with a young girl that had quit going to school because she had a fear of throwing up in front of her peers and being laughed at and pointed at and made fun of. So she would go and her anxiety would make her nauseous, and she was convinced she was going to get sick, couldn't stand being in the room. So a lot of things we did to make this girl successful and able to go back to school and not allow this to run her life anymore. But for her, we went to the other extreme, and we made songs about this, we made books about this. But I remember her picture was that what if I throw up in the middle of the classroom and the teacher walks over and she slips on my vomit and she skins her knee. She goes down to the nurse's office and the nurse says, all we have is SpongeBob Band-Aids. So she gives the teacher the SpongeBob Band-Aid, and the SpongeBob Band-Aid magically talks and tells jokes all day while we're at school, and how hilarious that would be, and all the kids would be talking about that. And so it was just a whole nother thought. So every time that thought crept in, what if I throw up in front of people? Right away, she pictured the teacher accidentally slipping, going to the nurses, and that big SpongeBob Band-Aid, and created a lot of less tension, a lot less worry, and able to focus on a lot of the other skills and things that we had done to help her with that issue. So whatever your worry is, again, put that picture life the way you want it to be. If that doesn't work, go to the extreme opposite direction and just make it funny and Be willing to laugh at yourself. And I know one of these sessions coming up is a little bit on humor and the benefits of that as well. All right, so number 3, the second antidote to what if thinking is living in the present moment. So when you have those negative emotions of anger and guilt, it's about something from the past. When you have those negative emotions of worry and fear, it's about something in the future. So use your mindfulness, use that grounding stuff. Remember the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just go onto YouTube, type in mindfulness. There's going to be millions, I'm sure, of videos that come up of different things that you can use. Some of our other skills coming up, we'll be building on that as well. And you're just bringing yourself into the present moment. And then one of the things I love to do is make a phrase. I call it a motto. So you know, when this worry comes up, just having a motto to fall back on. And I can tell you, I'll tell you what mine is, and there's a blank for you to fill in. If you want to steal mine, mine's up for grabs. Take it if you want. But my motto is, in this moment, all is well. So, you know, I might be worried about an upcoming show or a speaking presentation, or maybe I'm worried about a family member. Or again, maybe it's something from the past. Maybe I feel bad about something I had done, or maybe I feel bad or guilty about whatever it may be. And I get these negative emotions, like just coming into the present moment and say, in this moment, all is well. And in my brain, if it tries to say, but what if, or but remember when, like, stop. In this moment, all is well. And I want you to come up with a motto, and again, steal mine if you want to, but in that blank, something that'll just remind you that no matter what happened in the past, no matter what's about to happen in the future, as you're listening to my voice right now, no matter where you sit, in your house, in your car, at work, some of you maybe even in a hospital, I don't know, but as you're listening to me speak right now, the fact that you're focused on this, the fact that you're watching this, I'm assuming you're not in immediate danger that is going to change within the next 30 seconds. So to have a motto or something to fall back on, that right now, everything's good, or all is well. So number 4, the third antidote to what if thinking is scheduling it for later. So that's the whole worry jar. Make sure you set that time aside. Make sure you plan to worry and actually worry. Again, next session, we'll learn more about what to do to make that time more effective. But right now, you know, whether that's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes that you schedule, just worry your heart out. And there's a time to put in there when you're going to worry. Again, don't do it first thing in the morning. You want to start out on that positive note. Don't do it right before you go to bed, you know, because you want to end well and kind of in a good emotional headspace, those sort of things. You know, I've had people ask me, you know, I got this 30-minute drive to work. Can I do it like on my drive there or my drive home? And I'm going to say for this session, no, because all you're doing is worrying. I want you to pour those negative emotions and just feel bad for yourself. Feel sad for yourself. But I can say next session, when we learn how to make it more productive, like I have people that use this all the time on their drive to work, on their drive home, and they schedule it during that time, and it's easy to remember. They always do it. And you know, when you learn to make it more effective, it's going to be perfectly fine at that point. So I'm just saying, you know, right now, schedule a time when you can just be in your bedroom, go out in your car over your lunch break, and just relax and do it that way. Okay. So the final behavioral, or the final antidote to the what if thinking, is the behavioral experiments. So again, just like everything else in the program, just try things out. So you know, it's time to start to test some of your fears and issues that you've been dealing with. You know, expose yourself in small steps, using the breathing, the mindfulness, the better but believable thoughts, the worry jar, everything that you've learned, and you know, focus on success and continue to push forward. So what you're going to do is start to make a list of things that cause you anxiety, and then how much, on a scale of 1 to 100, how bad is it? So if you want to pause the video and type in a few things, write down a few things, or just listen to me now and go back. But if you want to pause, go ahead, pause now. Right? And then now in that list, on that scale, like how much it bothers you, the best place to start based on research and psychology is something in the 50 to 60 range. So something that causes you a good amount of anxiety, but doesn't like push you over the edge. All right. So if you're deathly afraid of spiders, you're not going to go stick your head in a tank full of spiders, right? That's not going to have any benefit to you. But things that make you a little nervous, maybe talking in front of a group of people, maybe for some of you now it's driving, you haven't driven for a while, and you feel like maybe you're okay now to give it another shot, those sort of things. So for example, I just made something up. I put in like, I'm fearful of the dentist. How much is 60? So that is a perfect place to start. So my limitation would be going to the dentist. When will I begin to confront this limitation? So I would call and make an appointment. Now, if I'm like totally scared of the dentist himself, like dental places, at least I know mine, a lot of them will allow you to just go in for a cleaning and not even see the dentist. So you can know you're not going to get any bad news, nothing bad's going to happen. Just go, let them clean your teeth and get out of there. It is kind of a starting point. And in that chair, use your skills, use your mindfulness, focus on the sounds, the sights, the smells, all those sort of things. And who I'm going to confront it with, like I'm going to take my spouse for support, or whatever it may be, and start to look at those things on your list in that 50 to 60 range, the things that are above that. So if you got something, well, let's say you got something that's a 90, so it's starting to allow yourself to bring that level down. All right. So for example, let's just go with the spiders again. So for some reason, maybe you're a scientist and you need to work in a lab where you're going to be working with spiders. Right now, they scare you to death. So some of that may be like starting out and drawing pictures of spiders, and then watching little videos of spiders, making up stories about spiders, songs about spiders, to where like your fear level of actually seeing spiders or being in a room with spiders drops into that 50 to 60 range. So again, hopefully a lot of that makes sense. So kind of like a clear picture. I remember that there was a girl I was working with that was a really good soccer player, and she had an indoor match at a local rec center, and ended up like getting physically ill in the middle of the game. And of course people saw her and stuff, and she absolutely refused to go back to this rec center because it was just a traumatic experience for, she was younger, probably 9-10 years old when this happened, and was just a traumatic experience. And I remember like when I was doing the intake with her and the family and talking about this, I said, well, one of our goals is to someday like get to that rec center. And she kind of laughed and said, there's no way, like I'm not going there ever. So she was on travel teams and competition type things, competitive, and anytime a practice is rained out and it got moved into this rec center or there was a game there, that she just would not go. So she learned a lot of these skills, started using them, started feeling better. Eventually her thought of going to this rec center got down to about an 80, 70, somewhere 70 to 80 range. So we ended up going. It was kind of like in the basement, and there was a balcony that overlooked. So our first step, we went to this rec center and we stood on the balcony, and we just used some breathing skills. We used some mindfulness, some distractions. And then a week or two later, we went back and we actually like went down on the floor. We took the family, and I think we played kickball or some kind of like just fun game on there to stay distracted. And it wasn't long until she could go to practices and it wasn't such a scary place anymore. Right. So again, just finding out what your limitation is and confronting that. You can see some other suggestions that have helped people. And I can tell you that, I use this all the time myself. or not use this. I talk about this all the time, with people, and as helping people with their anxiety, that I should be an expert at this. So recently, we moved into a new house, and I remember we had about a month from the time our house sold till we moved into the new one, and there were certain things that kind of needed to fall into place at a certain time. So, we had painters coming, we had like a general contractor coming to fix a few things, we were getting new carpet, and it was kind of like one person had to do something to lead into the next. And so anyways, I had gotten, we had gotten all new appliances, and we got them right away, like a month before we were moving in. And I won't say the name of the store, it's one of the big chain stores, but 3 of the appliances we needed, they had in stock, 2 they had to order. And about a week afterwards, we got a call that the other 2 came in. So all 5 of them were there, were waiting to be delivered, but it needed to come on a certain day. So we scheduled it plenty of time to make sure they would all get there. So anyways, one of the things we bought was the refrigerator, and we had the cabinets completely redone. And we weren't sure that the refrigerator might have been a little bit taller than the cabinets. So the cabinets may have been needed to be sanded down a little bit. We weren't sure until it actually got there, and I'm not very handy. So the general contractor was coming the next day for a couple other things, and was completely finishing up. And so we were thinking, maybe he can sand this down if need be. And he knew about that and was totally fine with it. So the day before, the store calls and says, your delivery is scheduled for tomorrow. And I said, you got 5 things coming, right? And he said, well, it looks like there's 4. And so come to find out, he says one of our store associates accidentally sold your refrigerator, but we'll still deliver what we have, and your refrigerator will probably be in tomorrow or the day after. And but the contractor's coming, and I remember going to bed probably 10 o'clock that night, and 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, like I'm still there, like worried about what are we going to do. What if, should we just have them shave our cupboards, and even if they don't need them, and just going through all this what if thinking. So here I am, supposed to be the expert on this, and I'm saying, like, there's times I still deal with this and struggle, and it took me a couple hours to like say, okay, wait a second, like here I've been for the last 3 hours, like worrying about a dumb little refrigerator. And the better but believable thought, like, worst case scenario, the contractor comes and we tell them, you know what, the refrigerator is not going to be here for another day or 2. We're going to need you to come back for probably less than 30 minutes to like sand these cabinets down a little bit if we need to. And he's probably going to charge me $50. And in reality, if I go to the store and it's all their fault, and I tell them what happened, I can probably get a $100 gift card. So worst case scenario out of this, the work's going to get done, and I may make $50 out of it. And so why am I so worried about this, doing this, and was able to fall asleep? But I'm just saying this to encourage you that even as somebody who talks about this on almost a daily basis with people, like there's still times like I deal with it and have to catch myself. And so with that, your homework is just doing this stuff. View your worries as a bad habit that you need to break. Keep changing them into the better but believable thoughts. Keep living in the present moment. Again, the big thing this week is to start that worry time, actually have it and worry your heart out, and start to set up the behavioral experiments against your limitations. So if it's getting in the car and driving around the block, maybe you can't drive as a passenger with somebody, letting your friend or your spouse or somebody drive you to the supermarket. And again, using those skills, and the big thing down there, just practice, practice, practice. And the great thing about doing these videos, like you can go back and rewatch any of them at any time. That seems to be one of the struggles when I work with people like one-on-one and there was no videos, that sometimes they'll make a comment about something. I'll be like, oh, you remember we talked about this in session 4, and they're like, that was 2 months ago, and I don't remember all that. We got to go back, but you have that ability to go back anytime. And again, hopefully this will be around the rest of your life to refresh and go through. And I'm sure every time you watch a video and listen and kind of absorb it, you'll probably learn some more things. So can't wait to see you next week. And good luck on the worry jar. And hopefully it has tremendous success as it has already for so many other people. Talk to you soon.